Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 6 of Jacked Up Being Frank, a show where we talk about the biggest current stories in the world of sports. I'm Jack Adams, and I'm joined by my co host, Frank Arenio. Tonight, we'll be talking about the NFL, mostly the Jets and Giants. We'll also discuss early season and Knicks headlines, but we are going to start tonight's show by recapping the World Series and looking ahead to the MLB offseason. Frank, did the Dodgers win the World Series or the Yankees lose it?
I'm going to say the Dodgers won the World Series. The Dodgers are a really good team. They earned it. But the Yankees, wow. I mean, last show, we had talked about the first two games. So it was an off day last Sunday. The first two games of the World Series were the prior Friday and Saturday. So we talked about those games with Jacob Netchapor. So the games that took place after our last show were games 3, 4, and 5 that took place Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So that fifth inning, the top of the fifth of game 5 at Yankee Stadium, I mean, that was it might be the second biggest meltdown in the history of the World Series. I mean, the only one that I think exceeds it, and it's because of the circumstances, not necessarily what happened in the half inning, was the bottom of the 10th of game 6 of the 1986 World Series, the Red Sox and Mets. So that was the Buckner game. So, I mean, that era, obviously the ball going through his legs, and there were some other things that happened in that inning. And the stage was even bigger because the Red Sox were one strike away from winning the World Series 3 times in that half inning. So there's nothing like that in World Series history. But you could argue that that top of the fifth, that meltdown for the Yankees was the second biggest meltdown in the history of the World Series in one half inning defensively. I mean, that was brutal. I mean, they just absolutely self-destructed with Judge just dropping the ball. I mean, some people say, oh, he was looking at the runner, seeing if he could double the runner off. I mean, why are you doing that there? You up 5 runs, like just catch the ball. I mean, not only do you never see Aaron Judge drop a ball like that, because people say, oh, you never seen Judge drop a ball like that. Like, when do you ever see anybody drop a ball like that? Like, what does that happen? Once a year, twice a year? I mean, that was shocking. And then Volpe's play, I mean, just bouncing the ball in the dirt. I mean, that's a play that's got to be made. It's not a tough play. I mean, he's ranging to his right. You know, you don't often see the shortstop throwing to third base. That play doesn't happen much, but it's a play that should be easy for a major league shortstop to make. He just spiked the ball. And then you had the play where Cole didn't cover first. I mean,
Yeah,
they just
the
totally melted
one they didn't.
down.
Yeah, that one.
So, I mean, I say the Dodgers won, but if somebody wants to make a case that the Yankees lost the World Series, they can make that case.
Yeah, but I think you look at the Dodgers and you look at the team they have that they have put together. It's a very talented team. So it's not like the Yankees. Well, in the fifth inning, they gave them the World Series. But I feel like this team is talented enough that without that fifth inning, they could have went into Game 6 and won that World Series. So I feel like I know it's a what if, but this team is very good. So it's not like this team had to earn it because they were a team that lost a lot of their starters, and then they had to lean on their bullpen, which is great. So thankfully, they spent a bunch of money on that bullpen. So that's great. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this team's talented, so it's not like they had to earn this World Series. They had to earn the Mets series. They had to earn the Padres series. So it's just everything coming up. They had to really earn, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they won game 2 clearly. They won game 3 clearly. They took care of business in those games. Yankees won game 4. The Dodgers jumped out ahead in that game, but the Yankees won 11-4. The Yankees gift wrapped the Dodgers game 5 for sure. But the Dodgers still had big hits there. I mean, you had Freddie Freeman. They took advantage. Freddie Freeman with the 2 RBI single to make it 5-3. Yankees leading the top of the fifth, and then Teoscar Hernandez with the game-tying double made it 5-5. And then the Dodgers had 2 sacrifice flies, right? It was 2. Mookie Betts had the game-winning sacrifice fly, but there was one before that
Yeah.
that tied the game and advanced a runner to third base because it was second and third, nobody out. I forget who hit that sac fly, but they had good situational hitting there. So, yes, the Yankees collapsed, but the Dodgers came up big with big hits and those big situational sac flies. So the Dodgers definitely deserve credit for that. And then, like you said, with the Dodgers bullpen getting the job done. And then in game 1, with Freddie Freeman's grand slam, like you can't say the Yankees collapsed. I mean, that was a product of the flaw in the Yankees roster where, their bullpen had been very good in the postseason until games 3 and 4 against Cleveland. Um, so you saw some issues there with their bullpen. I mean, the Yankees didn't have a great bullpen by any means, and they were up and down during the regular season, which most teams have struggles with their bullpen. But one of the Yankees' flaws was exposed there. I mean, they bring in Nestor Cortez. That was a terrible decision by Boone. Bringing in a guy who hadn't pitched in over 5 weeks, who's a starter. You're bringing in runners on base. So that was a poor decision. But he didn't trust Tim Hill, who, some people say, oh, bring in Tim Hill like he's this great left-handed reliever, like he had been pitching well. So that probably is the spot to bring him in. But, that was not the Yankees collapsing. That was exposing a Yankees flaw, and that was a great hitter coming up big in a huge spot.
Yeah,
So the Dodgers, even though the Dodgers were down to their final out and Freeman hits a grand slam to win it, that was not a collapse. That was the Dodgers winning the game.
I think the thing about that makes World Series teams is that you cannot make mistakes. That's 6-0. Like, they were up 6-0, the Yankees. That just doesn't happen because you made a bunch of mistakes. That happens because you make the mistakes and the other team capitalizes on it. So I think that's also the Dodgers as being a very talented team that will capitalize your 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes and make it a bigger inning than most teams would just let it be maybe 6-4, 6-3. Now this team capitalized it 100%, capitalized to a fullest.
That's a great point. Like it could have stopped at 5-1. So Cole didn't cover first base. That made it 5-1. It could have just stopped there. So next hitter up makes an out somehow, and then it's, all those Yankees mistakes really don't mean much. The Yankees probably go on.
It's like a normal inning. Like, teams make mistakes. You only let up 2 runs, like a normal inning.
It's a great point by you, Jack. Like, despite the ridiculous, horrible mistakes the Yankees made, just dropping a ball, spiking a throw, not covering first base, it was 5-1 after all of that. The Dodgers still had to come up and capitalize, and they did. Freddie Freeman and then Teoscar Hernandez. And then later in the game with those 2 sac flies, and then Mookie Betts with a game-winning sac fly. So, I mean, look, I'd say that the Yankees gave that game away, all right, but they didn't give the series away. The Dodgers were clearly the better team, and I didn't assess this World Series properly before the series. I had it Dodgers in 7, which they did win, but I was saying, the teams, you could argue that they're even or the Dodgers are slightly better. Like, I thought the Dodgers were slightly better, but the Dodgers were more than slightly better. And I guess that's because, honestly, I don't watch the Dodgers much during the season. I mean, my team's the Red Sox. You can see that with the hat. So I watch them a lot. I watch a good amount of the Yankees as well. But admittedly, I'm not watching the Dodgers that much. I saw my fair share of them, but, not enough to have a great grasp on them. Watched them more in the playoffs. I mean, definitely was tuned into the playoffs. So, yeah, I thought the Dodgers were slightly better, but they were actually clearly better than the Yankees. I wouldn't say way better, but they were definitely the better team. And they won the series. I mean, you could say that, they won it pretty easily in 5 games.
Yeah,
They left no doubt.
I think capitalizing on mistakes definitely goes with runners left on base. And the Yankees kind of left a lot of runners on base. And I think it compares it to like when the Mets lost. Like, they let a lot of runners left on base, and the Dodgers didn't do that. So I think that's just a simple thing of just not leaving runners on base, that the Dodgers just capitalized on everything because
The Dodgers lineup is loaded. It's deeper in the Yankees lineup. It's deeper in the Mets lineup. They have a relentless lineup, and they won without Ohtani doing much of anything. I mean, he got hurt, so that certainly affected him for the final 3 games in New York. But they won the World Series without him really contributing much. It just shows how deep they are. They didn't need Ohtani to have a great series in order for him to win the series. Now, they got a great series out of a future first ballot Hall of Famer, Freddie Freeman. Mookie Betts had a very good postseason. He had his struggles in the postseason before this year, and he really stepped up. You go through that lineup. I mean, Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman. I mean, they get contributions 1 through 9. I mean, they're deep, they're relentless. They'll capitalize on mistakes, which they clearly did. So when you compare them to the Yankees, I mean, they clearly were the better team. And there's, I don't want to say they're way better, but they're definitely better. They're less flawed. Even the starting pitching, the Yankees starting pitching is better, but I don't think it's that much better.
And the starting pitching came to play for the Dodgers. That's what I liked a lot. Is on paper, no, they weren't a great pitching staff, but they came starting pitching staff. They came to play. Like Bueller came to play enough. Yamamoto came to play at the biggest moments. Like those
Yeah,
players.
they had to go with the bullpen game, and they did
Yeah,
that throughout the postseason, but their bullpen stepped up. I mean, I don't like doing it that way, but hey, they won the World Series, so they did it that way. But you know what? Next year, they could be even better. Like, I'm sure they'll make moves in the offseason. We'll talk about the offseason in a couple moments. But they have Glass now coming back now. You know, it's not a
um,
guarantee he comes back and he's strong. I mean, he's had a lot of missed time now due to injury. You know, Otani's going to come back and pitch. We'll see how he does and how he responds to the pitcher from his Tommy John surgery. But you know, if those guys come back strong, then the Dodgers rotation's a lot better. You know, so they shore up that rotation, and then if their bullpen, you know, they keep that intact and they have a very good bullpen again, you know, they're even better. Like the Dodgers were very good this year, but I mean, they have a chance now to go to another level and they have a chance to build a dynasty. Look, there's no guarantees. You know, you can talk dynasty, but it's premature. I mean, you got to get it done in the postseason. They'll be in the postseason, no question about that. They'll probably win the National League West. In fact, I think they will. Um, you know, but there's that potential now. I mean, they're just loaded and they're loaded with resources. I mean, maybe they're in on Juan Soto. You know, they're not going to just say, "Hey, we won the World Series, we're good." They're going to look to get even better. They'll have internal improvements, but they're going to look to externally improve as well.
yeah, it's a team that can improve, and it's crazy. But this is a team that will I think will improve. Um, because as we said, the reason why they didn't have starting pitching wasn't because their starting pitching is bad. It's because a bunch of people were out for them that would usually show up in these type of games. And now you add them with a Yamamoto plus the pitching staff, the starting pitching staff coming back, and that pitching staff looks good. And just imagine this lineup with the pitching staff.
It shows you have to
Yeah,
have depth in baseball. Like I never like hearing fans use injury as an excuse. I know that sometimes teams are ravaged with injuries, but you have to have depth, and particularly if you're a big market team. I never want to hear Yankees fans, Mets fans, Red Sox fans, the big market teams. I don't want to hear the fans complaining about injuries. Like you have to have the depth, and you have the resources to have the depth. So the Dodgers are loaded. So they had big injuries and they still won the World Series. So I don't want to hear Yankee fans talk about their injuries. Look, you have to have the depth. Um, you know, so the Dodgers, I mean, they build their roster really well. And I think going into the 2025 season, their roster is going to be even better with getting healthier. And they're going to make moves. Like they're not going to just say, hey, we're good, you know, won the championship. Like they're going to look to get better, and I think they will. And they'll do something big this offseason. I don't know if it's going to be Soto, but they'll do something big because that's just what they do. They have the resources to do it, and they know how important it is to continue to get better because people have to come after them. You know, they're now the team that everybody's going to be chasing, and they've been chased already, but now they're world champions, so be chased even more. But it goes to show how important depth is. So the Yankees, if they want to go to the next level, I mean, they got Soto to try to re-sign, which I think is going to be difficult. But you know, they have to add depth and shore up, you know, major flaws that they have. So, Jack, why don't we talk about the offseason for a few minutes? And, you know, we'll get a lot more into it as we go and the hot stove season officially starts. But what are your thoughts on the offseason? Like, what's the biggest story to you going into the MLB offseason?
I think it's obviously Juan Soto, and to see how big the Yankees can go, and I think just I think every single time we look into free agency, we look for that type of guy. Who's everybody gonna go after? Not everybody, but who's gonna really go after people? Like, what's the player that people are gonna throw all their money towards? And it's this season gonna be Juan Soto. I mean, this offseason is gonna be Juan Soto, and we're gonna see, do the Yankees throw all their money at him? Do the Mets come back and try to second that and try to throw more? Like, we'll see how much does Juan Soto want to be a Yankee and stuff like that, or does he want to take the contract? which we don't know. You might think he wants to be he wants to take the contract, but you don't know. Maybe he like the Yankees put him a little bit less, so he takes that contract. But it's definitely a thing to see. What does he want, and what does the agent want with him?
Obviously, neither of us know Juan Soto personally, so I don't want to judge the guy. But all we could go off of is seeing what we see from him and hearing what we hear from him. And he strikes me as a guy that he's gonna take the biggest offer. Um, Look, I could be wrong, but I'm of that opinion with him. I think he's going to take the biggest offer. I don't think he cares one bit about being a Yankee. I mean, he talked about how he had a really good time as a Yankee, but he had a really good time because he had a really good season. If they didn't have a really good season, he wouldn't have had a really good time. And he had a really good season. So I don't think it means anything to him to be a New York Yankee. And that's not an indictment of him because I don't think that means a lot to players these days. I think that sort of thing is not a big deal to most players anymore. I think it's a shame. Like I think it was a good thing when a lot of players valued being in an organization like the Yankees, playing for an organization like the Lakers or the Celtics in the NBA, or playing for the Dallas Cowboys and Pittsburgh Steelers. Playing for those classic
I don't want to play for the
franchises.
Dallas
I don't
Cowboys.
think guys care much about that anymore. I think it's about the bag. I think it's about the money for most of them. So I don't see him taking a discount with the Yankees. I think he'll be a Yankee if they give him the biggest offer, but I don't think they're going to give him the biggest offer. I think with Hal Steinbrenner, he'll have a certain number. I think it'll be a big number, but I think there's going to be a team that comes along and offers a bigger contract, a team that really, really, really wants him. You can't rule out the Dodgers because they're in play on everybody, and I'm sure they're discussing Soto and figured out how they can maneuver like they did with Ohtani in that contract. But ultimately, I think the team that's going to offer the most money, you want to guess who I think?
Is it the team in in Queens?
Yes. I think Juan Soto is going to be in the New York Mets. I think Steve Cohen, I like the way he conducts business. To me, he's the owner you
Him and
want.
Stearns. Him and Stearns do a good job.
Yeah, I mean Stearns is very big too. I want to see more out of Stearns, but hey, I mean he's proven
He
he's a
bringing
good.
the right guys in the
Yeah, no,
and
he's proven he's a
everything.
very good GM. When I say I want to see more out of him, yeah, I mean I
Yeah,
want to see if he can win a
the
championship, and
big
he's never.
the yeah, like the popping move kind of.
Yeah, and
He
he
didn't.
hasn't won a
He,
championship in his career. Now he was with
yeah,
Milwaukee, and it's their limited resources there. But I don't want to crown Stearns yet. I think he's very good,
yeah,
and
but like
I guess you could say the same about Cohen. Cohen hasn't won a championship in owner, but Cohen's totally changed the Mets. It's not the same old Mets anymore. Um, he came in. They came in with a bang. They had a big time season in 2022 before they collapsed at the end. Yes, with not winning the division, that series in Atlanta, and then the series against San Diego in the playoffs. And in 2023, he went all in. It didn't work out with the two veteran pitchers, but then he pivoted. They traded those guys. They weren't expected to do much in 2024, but they wind up having a great year after a slow start. The Mets are a different organization now, and I, I think you could be optimistic about the Mets. I know for Mets fans, it's tough because it's been so long since they've won, so there's optimism there, but it's very cautious, and I get that. But as an outsider, someone who's not a Mets fan, I think the Mets are in really good shape, and I think Cohen is going to recognize that getting Juan Soto will be a major game changer. And I think he'd love to steal him from the Yankees. I mean, he's a diehard Mets fan, so of course he can't stand the Yankees. He gets the significance of that. But that's my prediction. I feel kind of confident about it too. I don't think he's going back to the Yankees. Again, maybe the Dodgers sneak in, but I think he's going to be a Met.
uh, but yeah, I mean, it's just about if you're in a big market, do you have that owner? I get it. You have a bunch of money, you could still win. But no, the owner is a big part of it because how much money does he want to invest in the team? How much money does he? Steve Cohen has put in a bunch of money in this team, and also the way he's been waiting for this type of guy to come out, and but sitting on like the Lindor contract, extending him. Like he's been waiting for this guy to come in free agency.
Yeah, it's the guy. It's the crown jewel. Uh, I think Cohen is just going to go all in after him. I don't see how he does it. I mean, just look at, you know, I don't think signing those two pitchers, Verlander and Scherzer, is going to make him gun shy. Like, I don't think that makes any sense. I mean, those contracts,
No,
those were big contracts, but it's nothing like what the contract Soto's going to get. So I don't think Cohen's going to calculate. So, oh, I got burned there. I mean, it's a totally different situation. This is a 26-year-old guy
yeah,
who's
it's
a
20.
megastar, who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Who
I think
just showed
Cohen's
up
going
in
to
the
be all in to get him, and I think he'll outbid the Yankees. Again, the Dodgers are the X factor, but the Mets need him a lot more than the Dodgers. So I'm going to say that the Mets get him.
This is such a weird scenario, in my opinion, because Juan Soto just went to the World Series with this team, made some big moments, one of the biggest moments I've seen in my life in baseball. Um, and he could get moved the next season because the Yankees don't want to match the top offer. I mean, it's just a crazy scenario for
Yeah,
me.
if George Steinbrenner was still alive, he'd definitely be a Yankee. But Steinbrenner passed almost 15 years ago, a little over 14 years ago now. So his son's different. I think his son. I think his son will offer a big contract,
Yeah,
but I don't think it's going to be
and
the biggest one. And I don't think Soto's staying with the Yankees for less. I think he's taking the biggest offer.
yeah,
I think if the Pittsburgh Pirates made the biggest offer, he'd be a Pirate. But the Pirates aren't going to be on Juan Soto. So yeah, I'm telling you, I have like a certain level of confidence he's going to be a Met. A Met. I can't say I'm really confident, but
yeah. I mean, you don't
I
know.
just think it adds up to him being a Met. And he said good things about New York. Well, the Mets play in New York.
Yeah, I mean, and the fan base is like the fan base was. I mean, you saw how Queens was. It was loud in Flushing. It was very loud. So it's not like you're losing that. Even though Yankees they do get loud, but Mets when you get a good team in front of them, it's a very good place to play.
When the Mets are good, City Field rocks. And when the Mets are good, I mean, they have a great fan base. I mean, there's more Yankees fans, but you got a lot of the casual fans who are Yankees fans. But the Mets are a great fan base, and that place rocks, and they pack it when the Mets are good. And I mean, I think the Mets should be good again next year. I don't see why they wouldn't be. So and I get Juan Soto. I mean, it takes it to a whole new level. So, Jack, why don't we shift gears, talk some NFL? So the Jets actually won a game. The Giants lost again.
Did you
Um,
see that catch from Garrett Wilson?
yeah,
Ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, catcher's ridiculous, and they did win a game. I'm not going to put too much stock in winning the game,
Yeah.
but they got a much needed win. If you want to say that keeps them alive for the playoffs, I don't think they're going to be making the playoffs. But if you think in a weak AFC, they still have a chance. Well, they had to win that game in order to make that case. So, Jack, you want to talk about your Giants? They lost to the Commanders today. Semi-competitive game. It was a one-score game, but Washington really had control of that game. What do you take away from it, and where are the Giants at now with their 2-7 record and Daniel Jones at quarterback?
This is a wire to wire game. I feel like the Commanders always had this game that with them being in front like the whole entire game, and also with them like just being the better team. And I always feel like that, and I'm having that X factor at quarterback. I think it always comes back to do you have that guy at quarterback? And the Giants really did not, and the Commanders did, which I think it's not fair to say because Daniel Jones threw a touchdown, he ran for a touchdown. Um, but man, this Commanders offense is electric with McLaurin, with Jane Daniels. So I mean, they just have this offense that is rolling for them under that quarterback, and every receiver seems to be doing better. And it's like the same receiving core that they had with the times where they had Sam Howell and stuff like that. It wasn't really it might not even be a league right now, but the Jane Daniels just made them so much better, and also just being that talented player, even with Sam Howell. So this team is just very good. The reason they're 7-2. Um, they do get to play the Giants a lot, so hey, about that. But yeah, I mean, the Giants have a team where they they don't have that much talent to compete with these top teams. So we see
Yeah.
the Commanders come in there, they beat them. It's just not a fun team to watch. So you look at the Commanders, they have a fun team to watch. I get it, they're winning, but they still have a fun team. Like with Jaden Daniels, with every like you look at all these good teams, they're fun. Even some of the bad teams, they're still fun. But this Giants team just is not fun. The pride is taken away from them.
Yeah.
That was there a few
They're
years
they're
ago. It's
like
just
they're uninteresting. I put the game on today, and it's like I had it on, but the Giants are just uninteresting. They're a bad team. It's like, where is this thing going? It's been a long time for the Giants now. I mean, I used to look at them as a good organization, solid organization. They've won Super Bowls, great history. They're just like a good, solid organization. But what are they these days? Like, they're just kind of irrelevant.
yeah. I mean, after you trade that, I mean, after you don't re-sign that guy in Saquon Barkley, who was ridiculous by the way. He did a 360 and did a hurdle and then but
Yeah,
yeah,
your
after
best
that we
player
signed
goes
him,
to your arch rival.
and after losing him, there's no real joy in this football team. Like this team feels like they're forced to come to work. Like I don't know about them personally, but this team looks like they're forced to go to work. They're like, oh, we have to play the Commanders today. But no, when they had Saquon and they had that guy, they felt like they wanted to come to work. They wanted to go show the fans. But right now, it's like, what are you giving the fans? A touchdown and a rushing touchdown, like
I mean, as big
from
of a
Daniel
joke the
Jones.
Jets are, the Giants are just dead. They're a they're a dead ass team. Like they're just like there's nothing there. I,
Yeah, I mean
I don't like where is this thing going? All of a sudden Washington is good and they're building something. They're in a division.
well, I think
Philadelphia. I'm not a
is
believer in them, but they
is
are
going to be good.
five and two. The Cowboys are a mess. We could talk about them if you want. I mean, they're a disaster. But I mean, the Cowboys at least are they have talent. They just
Is C Lamb and Mike
they're
Parsons.
melting down again. I mean, they're melting down now in the regular season. Um,
That's crazy. They're healthy, but
but
yeah,
still in the division, the Giants are clearly the worst team,
I think the thing
and they're going to be
here,
the worst team going forward. So, like, what is the hope for
the
this
hope is
organization?
the hope is you turn the Commanders. You get the quarterback. The team finds that joy again. The receivers that weren't doing that good with Daniel Jones gets better. You go out and you trade for some guys, and you let that defense be that defense. You get some corners, and you let that defense be that wrecking crew that it is. I mean, even though it gave 27 points up, but this Commanders team is really good. So offensively, but you let this defense be the defense. This front line defensively. Let that be a front line defensively, and you have that offense with that quarterback that sparks life into the offense, and you have Malik Neighbors, and you have a budding guy in Tyrone Tracy behind center, not behind center, but next to the center, next to the quarterback. And then you also have Wandale at the wide receiver too, and then you just fill in the spots right there. Your O line's pretty good now. The O line isn't bad as it was. You're seeing progression there. So it's just about getting that QB and getting that joy back in the MetLife for the Giants and for every other team. The Jets play in MetLife too. It's not a joy there either.
No, and the Jets are a disaster and a mess. But the Jets are a way different situation than the Giants.
Expectations are
I mean, I'm
high.
not optimistic about either franchise, but you could make a case at least the Jets have talent.
Yeah,
They have talent, and
but then you look
I
at the
mean, you're going
expectation.
to bring in a new coach next year. Maybe they're bringing a new GM too. But there's talent there. Like I think we were debating this a few weeks ago. Like, who would you rather be, the Jets or the Giants going forward? I mean, I think
I don't know, but
it's
you can see the Giants have this constructed decent team, but it's just the guy on their center isn't what you want, isn't what you look at other teams that are good in the league, and you look at who they have under center, you look at who you have under center, you're like, wow, we're bad. Why? Because you look at the teams that have guys under center who are better than you, and you understand this is why your team's bad because you look at the teams that are better than you and who they have under center. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
then
play
it's
against.
can you get that guy under center? It's not so easy.
Yes, it's not easy at all. But you see Jane Daniels in the Washington Commanders, you try to get that, QB, you try to get that joy in the team, and you try to let him learn Brian Dable's system. You get Brian Dable as quarterback because Brian Dable's never got his quarterback. I know it was, this guy, Daniel Jones, he's kind of like the guy that he had in Buffalo and Josh Down, not comparing them. We get him this guy, and he does well in his first season, but no. And Joe Shane just can't make any moves now because the team was good, so you can't really make any moves. But they need to say something. They need to get their quarterback, and they've been stuck in their ways of keeping Daniel Jones. But once they get that quarterback, this whole thing about Brian Dable getting his quarterback will finally come true, and we'll see who he really is as a head coach. Because I think he's pretty good. He's kind of, in my opinion, he's one of the best offensive play callers in the league. So once he gets his guy, I think it'll be very easy for that guy to fit in and learn the playbook.
Might not be with the Giants though. I mean, I think Dable's good too. I mean, he was very impressive in that first year. He showed what he could do. But there's a limit, there's a time limit on things. Like,
Yes, there definitely is.
head
I
coaches
understand
don't
that.
have too big of a window. So if the Giants don't wind up getting that quarterback, Dable's eventually going to be let go. I don't
And
know.
it's
It's
gonna
not
be
going to be after this
eventually just
season, but if it's after next season or 2
yeah.
years from now. So Dable coming of age as a head coach or really having big success and consistent success might come in his second job. I mean, that's happened plenty of times throughout NFL history. I mean, Bill Belichick's the biggest example of that. So, I mean, you hope as a Giants fan that Dable is going to have that success with the Giants, but it may not happen here. I mean, there's no guarantee they're getting that quarterback.
The reason why I say that is because the ownership has been very pro. Like we're gonna keep the guys, the front office. We're gonna keep the coaches because we
It's a
see who
good
we have.
point. And the Giants ownership has always been patient. They're not knee jerk. So maybe they look at Dable and say, like, he's the guy. We're going to give him time. Look, it's not his
We never
fault. We
really
got to
gave
get a
him that guy.
quarterback. We got to improve the roster. So, we're gonna stick with them, and that could happen because the Giants' ownership has always been patient and prudent like that.
I think sometimes patience can be bad, but I think other teams jump the gun too much on these coaches because of this quarterback under center who obviously isn't good, and obviously the production there is not what the coach can control. Who's under center, the coach cannot control, and his production the coach cannot control. Like imagine Daniel Jones being the reason you lose your job. Like that isn't good. And Brian Dable needs to get his QB, 100%, because there shouldn't be a reason why he loses his job because Daniel Jones is just bad. And even if you had Kyle Shanahan, that's not true. But maybe if you had Kyle Shanahan coaching him, you'd still be bad. So you need to get your guy if you're Brian Dable.
Yeah, and hopefully for him, it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we touched on the Jets and the Giants. With the Jets, I don't look. I don't think there's much more to say. I don't think the win against Houston moves the needle much.
Yeah, because
They go to Arizona next. I could easily see them going and losing
Houston
that
has
game.
two
In fact,
receivers
I think they
down.
will. I think they'll go on the road. Arizona's not terrible. I can see Arizona winning a close game against them. Um, I just I don't think this victory changes anything for the Jets. I don't think they're in the playoff race. You can look at the AFC. Oh, they still got a chance. Nah, it's over for them, and they got their own set of issues. So I say we leave it at that with the New York teams because I mean they both stink. So Jack, NFL. I mean, what's the
Cowboys.
yeah? I was going to ask you what's the biggest story right now
Man,
outside of the New York teams.
the Cowboys. That's kind of like a thing. Oh, the New York sports team isn't good. Let's go to the Cowboys, but they're really not good at all. And you look at the team, and you look at Jerry Jones' comments about the team. It's just like he thinks the team they have right now is he has trust, and it's like you have trust in Dak, CeeDee Lamb. and that run game just being the worst in the league. There's no so also if your run game isn't good, you would think the receiving is good. The it's not. It's just it might be just CeeDee Lamb being like a top 5 receiver in the league, but besides that, you're getting no production. When you have that comeback game against the 49ers, it was just CeeDee Lamb catching those passes. No one else was really doing anything. And then I think Dak had a throw down to Keontae Turpin, who just missed the ball. And that's just a thing. That's the story of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. They don't have a good run game. So you would think they have 3 solid receivers. They don't. They have one very, very damn good receiver. And very good receiver. He could be the best receiver in the league. And CeeDee Lamb. But besides that, it's like, what do you have there? You don't have a good running game. You don't have a good receiving game. So it's like, and the defense is hurt. So right now, it's not really looking good in Dallas, and the QB is now came down with a hamstring injury that the coach, I think Mike McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken, he said that was concerning. So and also Dak Prescott said it kind of sucked because he couldn't walk. So that's concerning there. You're starting QB as bad as he could be playing right now. You're still that's it's gonna be die by Dak Prescott, live by Dak Prescott at this point.
I'm looking at the NFC standings. The Cowboys are done. They're not making the playoffs. I mean, you're going to have the Lions. Right now, the Commanders lead the East. Falcons lead the South. Somebody's going to win the NFC West. Right now, it's the Cardinals leading it at 5-4. And then the 3 wild cards right now, Philadelphia 6-2, Packers 6-2,
You have the Philadelphia
Vikings
Commanders.
5-2. They're not leapfrogging any of those teams.
You're not leapfrogging the Commanders, I don't think, right now.
No, they're not catching the Commanders. And so that's the division. And then somebody's got to win the 3 other divisions. And then again, the wild cards right now are the Eagles, Packers, and Vikings. And they're 3-5, the Cowboys are. And the Vikings have the 7 seed right now. They're 5-2. So the Cowboys are 2.5 games behind them. It's 3 games in a loss column. I mean, they're shot. They're not catching those teams. Who are they catching?
Especially with Dak out. Especially with Dak out.
Yeah.
I don't know who they're going to catch.
Even with him playing, I don't think they catch these teams. But they host the Eagles next Sunday.
Yeah, that's a loss. With the way the Eagles are, it's a loss.
Then they host the Texans. Then they go to the Commanders.
They're losing against the Commanders. They can dominate the Giants. Whatever. They're going to lose. They might lose the Bengals. Probably will. Then they can dominate the Panthers. Whatever. Then they're going to lose the Bucks. Probably.
Oh, their Thanksgiving game is the Giants.
Yeah. That's going to make them look.
The country has to watch that game.
Well, that's going to make them look way, way better than they're because everybody's going to be watching that game. You can't really watch anything else.
I hope there's a good college basketball game on at that time. I'll watch.
I hope there's good something. Bowling. I mean,
there'll be college basketball tournaments going on.
Oh,
yeah. So I probably watch a college basketball game because that game is going to be unwatchable. But yeah, the Cowboys to me are done. And then how about on a positive note? What are the biggest stories in terms of teams that are playing well or surprising? Or who stands out to you? Got to beat Detroit, right?
Oh yeah, Detroit.
They handled the Packers at Lambeau today.
Yeah, Detroit. I mean, the way they run their offense is perfect, and Jameson Williams suspended for a few games, but once he's back, that offense is complete. I think you look at
the best team in the NFL.
They have best team in the NFC. So they're gonna be running in there, and they're gonna be running in there, and they're gonna run to that brick wall. They're gonna run all the way to that brick wall. The Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like, in my opinion, but who knows? The Ravens are very good. You look at them. The Zay Flowers. They got Deontay Johnson. They still have Rashad Bateman. They have Derrick Henry, the best running back in the league. So, and you still have Lamar. You have Lamar Jackson. So that team's just stacked. And the defense has been good enough, even though it isn't that good, but it's good enough. So, yeah, there's a lot of teams. I think that's a team that could give the Chiefs a battle. I don't think they'll beat the Chiefs, but they're going to give them a battle because of that offense. Ridiculous.
So, you say the Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob said off air that he thinks the Lions are, and I said to him, you can't put the Lions number one when the Chiefs are 7-0. They're
The Lions are
the
very good.
two-time defending champions. But after what the Lions did today, I think there's more of a case to be made. I mean, you go to Lambeau in the rain and just dominate the Packers, and the Packers are very good. You could make a case a lot. The Lions are the number one team to put them number one in the current power rankings. I would put the Chiefs. They're
You can put
7-0.
Chiefs, Ravens, or Lions right now, in my opinion, to be first place. I wouldn't be mad, but I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs are always going to be the team that, you know, is going to be there. But I could see the Lions giving them with that defense and with the. I think they're a very complete team. The Lions are, and I think those teams are going to give the Chiefs some fits. So who knows? I mean, you can go down there. We can look at this in February, and the Chiefs just dominated the Lions. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, so the Chiefs, they play the Buccaneers tomorrow. They'll win that game. So they'll go 8-0. Then they got the Broncos at home. They should win that. So they should be 9-0. And then big matchup at the Bills, Sunday, November 17th.
They have to
Could you
lose
see the
that, right?
Bills
They're gonna
finally
have to
beating the
lose.
Chiefs?
I mean, they're gonna have to lose.
I mean, do the Bills finally beat the Chiefs?
Ooh, that's if they don't win. That's the best chance for the NFL to beat the Chiefs right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills have beaten them in the regular season before. They
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
beaten
yeah.
them in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's going to be really
Because then you play
fascinating
the
game. And look, the
Raiders.
Bills, people have been knocking them, but they're 7-2. They're going to
Yeah,
easily win the division. I mean, they got a good chance at the 2 seed.
yeah, the Chiefs already played their great opponents, and the Ravens, Bengals, Falcons.
Well, how about you
Saints.
go? Let's skip that Bills game. I'm looking at the Chiefs' schedule. They're going to beat the Panthers after that. They should
Raiders,
beat the Raiders.
Chargers. They should beat.
Yeah, I mean, Chargers are respectable, but it's at home. Okay. They
That
should
could be a
beat the
game where the Chiefs just
Browns.
let that go. I mean, who knows? Who
They
knows? The
get they
Chiefs
get
could
the
let a game
Steelers on
go.
Christmas. That's going to be a
What?
tough game. The Chiefs will lose somewhere along. They're not going 17-0.
Yeah, but I feel like it might be a game that we don't expect because the Chiefs just want to let go of the rope because they're really thinking big things. They could go 17-0, but who cares? They don't get the ring.
Yeah, they're not going 17-0. They'll lose to somebody. Yeah, they'll lose. I don't know. They'll lose 2 or 3 games. I think they're gonna have one of those big seasons. They go 14-3, maybe even 15-2. I'll say 14-3. They'll lose some games. But I would think they'll be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah. They're gonna be. They've always been this team that's gonna win some way. They're gonna find a way to win. I think that's great teams. They find ways to win, even in games where their offense is 100%. They find ways to win. I mean, they had Rasheed Rice, then he was out, and then now they have Juju, then he was out. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins, so they have found ways to win with a with a with not a with not a very good receiving core. They found ways to win, and also as they have Pacheco being out, they bring in Kareem Hunt. So they've found ways to win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they got a real chance at three-peat. I tell you, the Detroit Lions, man,
Yeah,
they're really, really good. If that's a Super Bowl, what a Super Bowl that'll be. But again, I think you got to keep Kansas City number 1 for now. They're undefeated, 2-time defending champs. If they slip up anywhere, if they somehow lost tomorrow to Tampa Bay, and
whatever. I
definitely
mean,
put
they're
the
probably.
Lions 1, but I think you got to keep the Chiefs in the 1 spot right now, and then Detroit is definitely number 2. They've
I
been
feel like
really
they could lose
impressive, and
against the
they're
Bucks.
really good.
That could be a game where they just let go of the rope because they have those games where they're like, do you really care about winning anymore? Like in the regular season, that could be a game where they're like
Which one?
the Bucks game or the Chargers, like those type of games. They could be like, really? Like,
Yeah, you have those slip-up games. I don't think it'll be tomorrow night, but I see what you're saying. Like, the Bucks aren't terrible, but yeah, more a Chargers game. I mean, look, they go to Buffalo, they go to Pittsburgh. They're going to lose some games,
And the
but
Broncos aren't that bad too. They're formidable.
yeah, They could lose to the Broncos. I think more so on the road, but they still have to play them twice. Hey, I think Kansas City's going to lose 3 games. And I think they'll be the number 1 seed, so it's going to be really tough to beat them because they'll get 2 games at what was formerly known as Arrowhead, so 2 games at home in the playoffs to try to get back to the Super Bowl again. So, Jack, let's shift to the NBA. New York Knicks are 3-2. Pretty good start for them, a little bit up and down. Cleveland Cavaliers are going to throw them in there. They're 7-0. Celtics are doing their thing, 6-1. The Thunder locked and loaded at 6-0. So you want to start with the Knicks, give us an assessment of where they're at, and then go wherever you want with the NBA. What teams or players or storylines stand out?
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks have just gelled very well. It took them a long time to gel back and to get back. I mean, the defense looks so much better. I know they played the Pistons, but they need those games, especially if you're gelling together. You kind of need those games to gel. I definitely did playing the Celtics game 1 wasn't good at all. Like, it really wasn't good at all because you're trying to gel. You play the best team in the league. Doesn't really those two things don't really combine well or mix and match well. But yeah, the Knicks have really found wins. I mean, they beat the Heat with a bad Jalen Brunson game, if I'm correct, and they with Cat having 44. Like, they have really understood, as I said in the nick of time. Jalen Brunson did a great job of knowing what needs to happen. Like, Cat didn't have that Cat wasn't involved enough. Let's get him the ball. They weren't shooting enough threes. Let's try to get inside the defense and kick it out. Let's try to get more motion out here to get the 3-point shot. So Jalen Brunson did a great job just inviting everybody to the party per se and getting their shots up.
So the Heat win was very impressive. What were they down? 15 points in that game?
Like 13.
They were down in the second half too. So, I mean, that was the Knicks' most impressive win so far. I mean, they blew out the Pistons. So look, take care. Pistons are terrible, but you take care of them. Well, I don't know. I mean, the Pacers. I guess the Pacers win was most impressive. But could you make a case for the Miami game? Because the Miami game was on the road. Pacer game was at the Garden, and you always like to see a team come back. You're on the road against a good team, against a rival. You're down. It was like 15 points early in the third quarter. I mean, I go with that as the most impressive win so far. What do you think?
Yeah, against the Heat, I thought losing to the Cavs also wasn't a good mix and match. That team was freaking. That team was on a roll. That team's on a freaking roll.
So why don't you tell us about the Cavs? They're 7-0. Do you think they're for real? I mean, what has led to this start? And then, not that they're going to keep up being undefeated, but do you think they'll keep it up and be a real factor in the East and in the NBA in general?
I was thinking this, like, after these two teams, like the two teams, the Knicks and the Bucks. I mean, not Knicks and the Bucks. Knicks and the Celtics. Third team up in the air, man. Up in the air right now, with the Bucks being absolutely trash.
So what's the deal with the Bucks? 1-5
defense, man. I mean, you can.
The great Doc Rivers isn't coaching them up.
No, man. The great Doc Rivers is not coaching them up, man. The great Doc Rivers is on his hands and knees.
That guy has to be one of the most overrated coaches in the history of sports.
But yeah, I mean,
and I say it with glee, Jack. I love seeing them struggle. They got. I'm sorry, I'm a Seton Hall guy, so it really ticks me off. They got Adrian Griffin fired last year. They're 30-13. They bring in the great Doc Rivers, and they get bounced again in the first round. Another 1-5. That team's a disaster. That organization, that thing. I know they won a championship a few years ago, but that's a joke.
That team is a disaster, and I think it's just simple. Like, it's the basketball's like they do not know how to defend, and they do not know how to keep 2 feet in the paint. Like, don't know how to keep the offense to have 2 feet in the paint. So when offense, like, what Jalen Brunson likes to do, let's get the ball and get 2 feet in the paint. Sometimes teams just do not let him. Great defensive teams just won't let Jalen Brunson get 2 feet in the paint. But the Bucks you could just have like, I could go out there and get 2 feet in the paint against the Bucks right now. This team is not that good defensively. This team is really bad defensively, and the offense hasn't been balancing out to take that and make that a to make that a non-existent thing, not really that big of a deal. Damian Lillard hasn't been playing well. I know that's crazy to say after he had like 10 threes last like a few nights ago, but he's great there. I mean, but just the offense hasn't been great at all. Um, so it's not like the defense is bad, but we still the offense now. The offense is like is just same as the freaking Heat right now, in my opinion. The Heat have the same kind of offense. The Magic with Bancheros, him being out, sucks, but they have the same kind of offense. This team is not really that good. Um, this
I mean, I
this
imagine it's
offense
going to
not
get
really.
somewhat better for them. I mean, they're 1-5.
Yeah, they're gonna get better. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna probably get like a hot. They might even get that 3 seed. I don't know, but always in the playoffs, I'm gonna say when you get in the playoffs, that stuff will come back. That defense will come back. The offense will start to slow down. Damian Lillard will start getting more eyes towards him, and that offense will start to get halted, and the defense will get picked apart when
What
it
are
comes
they
to playoff time.
missing that they had when they won the championship in 2021?
Drew
Is it
Holiday.
defense?
Drew Holiday. I don't even think it's defense. Just Drew Holiday. Just the Drew Holiday. I mean, you look and see what he does for the Boston Celtics. He had a game-winning stop against the Pistons a few nights ago. I know why they going to game time with the Pistons, why they going to the finish line with the Pistons. But man, he has some great defensive plays. Him and Derek White had some great defensive plays. He wins games by his defense. I know Damian Lillard hits a sidestep three for the win, fun, but Drew Holiday wins games by his defense, literally.
Speaking to the
Like,
Celtics, did you see the Pacers Celtics game on
yeah,
Wednesday?
I didn't see, but I saw that the Pacers came, the Celtics came back, but then, um,
Yeah, I didn't see the game, but I heard the Celtics came back and the Pacers won in overtime,
yeah, because
135, 132. So that's a good win for the Pacers. That had to be a
the
heck of a
Pacers aren't
game.
that good either. The Pacers are like the thing about the Pacers is the team that we saw last year with that like fast paced offense has just died down. And I think it starts at the top of Tyrese Halliburton, just the league figuring out him and him not having a counter. I think he's going to create one. He's a he's a damn good player. He's going to create one. But for now, it's like you're the engine of his offense. You don't have a counter. This team's going to really fumble. And um, this team right now is a lot of just bad defense. And then, as I said about the Bucks, the offense isn't even that good either. So it's like you have bad defense, but you don't have the great offense balanced out in the regular season. So it's like, what do you have?
So I know it's a small sample size, and we're not even 2 weeks into the regular season. From what you've seen so far in the NBA, particularly the East, are you confident that the Knicks are the second best team in the East?
I'm 100% confident. I mean, you see the next starting five. You see the confidence out of Deuce McBride off the bench. This team has the makings of a great regular season team, and this team has the makings of a second seed. I mean, second best team in the East. They may not be second seed, who knows? But they'll be second best team in the East, 100%. After that Celtics team, they're second best. They're right behind them, and see the rest of the East just crumble down. Banchero out. They're free. They're a damn good team, but Banchero out. You know the Pacers aren't that good either. And the Heat are just being the Heat right now. Jimmy Butler doesn't care about the regular season. Bam Bio is invisible. And then you look at the Bucks being the Bucks. Can't play defense. We talked about them, but the East kind of crumbling down. You look at those top two teams, or the top three teams, and the Cavs, Knicks, and Bucks. They really Cavs, Knicks, and Celtics, and they have really showed themselves right now. And the Cavs, I know it's a different team. I mean, same team, same philosophy. Not same philosophy, same team continuity, but they need that right now. I mean, they have had very young players. If we think about that team, they have great young players, and continuity is not the worst thing for them. With Evan Mobley progressing into being the guy that we thought he was going to be out of USC, the great offensive player. And I know the defense is amazing, but the offense was always questioned, and the offense has came to play this season. And it's great to see Kenny Atkinson, the New York guy, kind of empowering him, for lack of better, empowering him to be this guy, to to be this kind of he can get a rebound. I think the simplest thing, he gets a rebound and he could just dribble the ball up the court. Sometimes, on the other team with JB Bickerstaff, he'd get a rebound, throw it to Darius Garland, throw it to Don Mitchell. Let's start a play. But no, he's getting that rebound. He's just dribbling at the court and he's creating his own offense. That simple thing, those simple things have made him have a more confidence and has led to more production on the offensive side of the ball.
So, Jack, I'm looking at the Knicks schedule for this upcoming week. They go to Houston to play the Rockets tomorrow. Then they go to Atlanta to play the Hawks on Wednesday. Then a very interesting matchup Friday night at the Garden against the Bucks. Next Sunday, they go to Indiana. And then going into the next week, the NBA in-season tournament begins for the Knicks. So they go to Philadelphia to play the Sixers. So that'll be really interesting. So just looking at this week, so we'll leave the Philadelphia game out of it. So Rockets, Hawks, Bucks, Pacers. What stands out to you? What are you looking forward to most with the Knicks games this upcoming week?
I'm looking forward to that Bucks game. I'm looking forward to see can the Knicks? I know the Bucks are, we talked about it being bad, but can the Knicks beat this Bucks team, which they haven't really beat a lot last season? I mean, they beat once, but Damian Lillard has just torched them. So I mean, it's a game that is kind of the best game kind of like the third best game we played so far. So this is another test for the Knicks right now to play this. As we say at the end of the day, this Bucks team should be third seed in the East. I mean, going to be this third seed in the East or fourth seed in the East. So at that end of the day, it's going to be a great matchup between the Bucks and Knicks, and also the Knicks at Pacers at Indiana. See, the Knicks can get a win at Indiana because they didn't get it the whole entire playoff series against them.
Yeah, it's a tough place for them.
And also the Rockets, last year's fiasco, where Julius Randle gets a foul call on him, on Aaron Holiday, and then just Tom Thibodeau goes irate, and then that fiasco of them going back and eight 8:45 start, an 8:45 start to a basketball game.
Well, that's in the Central Time Zone, so it's a 7:45 start.
But still,
I mean the Garden you start 7:30 Eastern Time.
So no, I mean just the odd time of like 8:45.
Yeah, 45 is odd. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the Rockets are a formidable team. They came back against the Warriors, who are good. They're standing out to me. Their defense without Curry has been amazing. Not like the defense with Curry is like Curry's because the defense stinks because of Curry now. It's just they're missing Curry and them just strapping down the defensive end, and them generating offense with Wiggins and Podziemski and all those players. They've been able to generate good enough offense. And Kuminga, they've been able to generate good offense, good enough to beat teams like the Rockets, and their defense has been amazing. You see the difference between the Bucks and the Warriors is once the Rockets got into the paint, the Warriors had two defenders there, and they were just stopping anything. Jalen Green tried to go for a layup. Two guys were just converging on it. So it's just a difference between you look at bad defense teams in the Bucks or Pacers and the Warriors and Knicks. You just look at what's happening in the paint. You look at how the defense swarms the paint. That's a big telltale to a good defensive team.
So, Jack, let's wrap our show up tonight with our closing thoughts. So, you want to go first? You want me to go first? Anything that we want to wrap the show up in the world of sports? Either what stands out to us that's happened recently or anything that we're looking forward to upcoming.
Let's close out with the Eagles game. The Eagles come out and win. They win a close game here without AJ Brown for the second half. And they in the NFC East, they are a big factor. Even though at the start of the season they were a team like, you know, are they really that good of a team? I mean, you look at last season, their meltdown. But this team's I hate to say it, but this team is kind of for real. Like their team is very talented, and this defense has done enough. And they have AJ Brown, they have Saquon Barkley, who's been just a monster out of this world, and they have that offensive line, of course, and they have Jalen Hurts playing at a MVP, one of the MVP type level, one of the MVPs. Lamar Jackson's always gonna be up there, but he's playing like an All Pro type level. So their team is kind of hitting on all cylinders, and they're for real. Um, After those type of games where it was like, oh, the Eagles fans were going crazy because they lost some games they should have won, but now they're back in it. Now they're the Eagles that we know and from the Super Bowl run. So yeah, I certainly they get in the wild card and they lose, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Because this Eagles team is pretty talented.
So I'll close out by saying that college basketball starts tomorrow night. So baseball season just ended, and it's now time to get into college basketball, and NBA is in full swing. Um, but it's college basketball time, so it's early November, and it's exciting. I mean, you think college basketball, the big time of year is March Madness and the NCAA tournament. But this time of year you have the non-conference play to start the season, and then things get more exciting once you get into the tournaments around Thanksgiving time. So I'm looking forward to getting it going. I'll be at the Seton Hall game tomorrow night as they take on St. Peter's at Prudential Center. So it's the start of a new season. We'll get into college basketball and talk about it on our program once the season really gets going and is in full swing, and then you get into the conference season. So, we'll have plenty to discuss about college basketball, and just standing out or what I'm thinking about most. I mean, I'm a Seton Hall fan, so we'll talk Seton Hall basketball in here, and a Big East fan. But Connecticut, they've won the last two championships. They've won pretty easily. I mean, they've run through the NCAA tournament, totally dominant the last 2 years. So, I mean, they're locked and loaded again. I mean, there's a lot of turnover in college basketball each year now.
Yeah,
The transfer portal and
and
NIL.
one
So
done.
it's a very different situation. I don't like most of it. I think it's really changed things. And I think
And
largely it's changed things for the worse. I think it's something that we could talk about here in the program
yeah, and
throughout
also
the
if you,
season. Yeah,
and
Jack.
also and also if you're UConn, you usually have those great players who go to the NBA and they're kind of like, let me get in the draft. So that's the big turnaround is they get those players who just want to go to the draft one year. In 1 year. So it's a big turnaround every single year. You saw Klingon hit the draft, Stephon Castle. So yeah, those are players that you want to get to the draft, and they're very good.
Yeah, but they just reload. I mean, these big programs
Yeah.
that have the resources, have the money, because it's really all about the money now. It's who could pay up. So again, I think we'll have a lot to talk about, and we'll discuss the current state of college basketball and college sports in general, how much the landscape has changed. But again, really looking forward to getting the season going. I think UConn's going to be the big story. Can they three-peat? I mean, nobody's three-peated in college basketball since UCLA. I mean, just won championship after championship in the 60s and 70s. So it'll all tip off tomorrow night in college basketball. So, Jack, your Nick of Time show, you had a recent show that you just posted. You got one coming up, so you've been doing that show weekly. So, do you want to plug Nick of Time for a moment or two before we sign off for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, my last week's Nick of Time was a lot about how the confident the Knicks have been, how much better they looked, and also about the NBA stuff around the league. I mean, for example, as I go the first one, the Clippers are playing through James Harden. So I just see those type of things. I'm watching from the games and I'm listening to in podcasts, and I kind of just write those down because I saw the Clippers playing the Nuggets, and it looked like James Harden was touching the ball the whole entire time. He wasn't he was passing. It was just everything was run through him. So I kind of wrote that down. So those type of things you'll be seeing in the videos.
Yeah. So looking forward to your next episode, Jack. And again, if you want to get the whole breakdown of the New York Knicks, I mean, seriously, there's nobody out there who knows the Knicks better than Jack. I mean, his wealth of knowledge and ability to analyze the game, and you could hear it here on our program. He's just absolutely phenomenal. He knows the sport inside and out, knows the Knicks inside and out, and knows the entire NBA inside and out. So go check out Nick at Time, Jack's Knicks podcast, but he also talks about the NBA and the big stories and headlines going on in the National Basketball Association. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Season 1, Episode 6 of Jacked Up and Being Frank. We'll be back next week with plenty to talk about. The NFL's in full swing. Like I said, college basketball starting up, and we'll continue talking about the New York Knicks and the NBA, and we'll talk some Major League Baseball offseason as well as the hot stove gets heated up. So for Jack Yablonowitz, I am Frank Aranio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will see you next Sunday.